visitors from outer space crash land without warning and can lie buried for thousands of years.
Oh my God!
Jeff Notkin and Steve Arnold live to unearth these space rocks.
Let's go hunt.
They're the Meteorite Men.
Woo!
Their quest is part science
Here's our first image.
and part treasure hunt.
That is the real thing.
On this adventure, the Meteorite Men reveal secret maps
You don't show these to anyone.
to solve a 160-year-old mystery of science, the landing site of one of the world's most famous meteorites, the Tucson Ring.
Watch out for scorpions. He's right on my target.
If they can find even a small piece of this mysterious space rock,
Look at that.
they'll become a part of meteorite lore
Definitely need to bag this one.
and get rich beyond their wildest dreams.
This is the bumpiest road in the history of the world officially, you know.
Steve Arnold and Jeff Notkin are modern-day treasure hunters. They're in southern Arizona to solve one of the greatest of all meteorite mysteries.
The Tucson Ring is the single greatest mystery and legend in meteorite lore. It's one of the most beautiful meteorites in existence. It's probably the most famous meteorite in the world. And it was found somewhere around here in a canyon that was unofficially named the Valley of Iron. That peak right in the middle with the rocks on the top.
Yep.
The Tucson Ring is the holy grail for meteorite hunters. The 160-year-old mystery is no one knows where it was found. But legend says more pieces are out there. Finding even one would be worth a fortune.
Coming off of one of these mountains with a piece of the Tucson meteorite is worth a lot more than a really big stack of money. But this is the quest to solve the mystery more than it is about the money.
You never say that.
But it's true.
Wow. Steve's decided on something that's
One.
more important than money. Just the one thing.
Yeah, the one thing.
So admirable. The site that we're going to is on the other side of this mountain range. It's really difficult to get to. It's some pretty spectacular scenery up there, and it's also really steep.
Sometime in the 1850s, two giant iron meteorites were dragged out of these mountains. Today, at the Smithsonian Museum, they are the stars of the world's most fantastic meteorite collection. One is a 630-pounder named the Carlton Mass. The other is 1,400 pounds, the enigmatic Tucson Ring. Under a microscope, you can see what you might call meteorite DNA, small silicate inclusions. Like a fingerprint, the matching inclusions prove that these two pieces broke apart from a single mass. If one giant meteor exploded in the atmosphere over what's now Arizona, the breakup must have scattered many other pieces, creating a strewn field.
When the rock would have come in, it would have been one piece, and then when it hits the atmosphere, it's a very violent occurrence with the rock, and it will break it up. The larger pieces will have more inertia, and they will go farther, and then the smaller pieces start to drop off, getting bigger and bigger, and then the larger one will end up hitting farther off.
Here is everything that we have on this site. These mountains have been crawling with gold prospectors since the 1500s. So if there are these big irons lying somewhere in view, wouldn't one of these prospectors have stumbled across them in all these decades? It just adds to the mystery. We're in this area, assuming that guys with a couple of horses towing a rock that weighed almost 3/4 of a ton couldn't have pulled it over these mountains. One of the things that interests me are all these steep canyons down here.
Okay.
on the west side and the south side. The best bit I have to show you are the secret maps.
Jeff has a special map he inherited from his good friend and mentor, Professor Jim Cree. The professor inherited the map from a prospector known only as Leon.
And these maps we are not showing to anyone because these 3 documents show all of the specific finds that Leon made. They're real treasure maps. They're almost priceless.
The maps have been blurred to conceal the exact location of the marks.
He actually, according to the stories I've heard, used one of those doodle bugs on a map in the mountains.
Did you say doodlebug?
I know that you don't exactly believe in this sort of stuff, but he used one of these little swinging doodlebug pendulums, and he would hold it over a map, and wherever the pendulum came to rest, he would go and hunt there.
Wait, you brought me to chase.
No, it gets better.
Okay.
Believe me, if that was just the story, we wouldn't be out here. He found irons up in the mountains. I've seen a couple of the pieces. It's not that big a leap to go, well, could those irons that Leon the prospector found somehow be linked to the Tucson Ring? This is what really interests me, and this is where we're going today.
Get me there.
That's exactly where we're going.
We'll see if he missed a couple.
And we're down here. Here's the track we're gonna take. It goes up through here. It's as crazy as anything.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why we've got the rock count.
Today's meteorite hunters don't go by horse or burro. They go by hound, rock hound.
It is a multi-purpose all-terrain vehicle, and when they say all-terrain, they mean it. We can take it in the water. Not that there's a whole lot of it out here in Arizona. It's got tracks, it's got heavyweight rubber tires.
So the tires are cactus-proof?
I hope so.
See, that's being right.
Leon's map is marked with what he called hotspots, places he once detected a lot of iron. And pieces of iron could be the best clues possible to finding the place where the Tucson Ring was found 160 years ago. Jeff and Steve aim right for hotspot number 1.
The really intriguing part is the reports from the finders say that when they located these irons and removed them from the valley, they just took 3 of many. That there were other irons in the same valley or canyon, and they just took 3 that they thought would be useful for their purposes. They weren't even the biggest ones. I think that's about as far as we're going on this.
Let's go hunt.
The Valley of Iron, if it exists, is in country that can easily kill you. It's hot, dry, and home to some notorious wildlife.
Rattlesnake country. Steve's got his incredible snake-proof boots, but they're too hot and heavy for me. So we use the old-fashioned snake gaiters. They do work. I haven't died yet.
They're ugly enough to scare off the snakes.
You're just jealous because you don't have any.
I'm not jealous. I've got snake boots.
If the rattlesnakes don't get you, the scorpions will.
Don't forget the gloves. You don't want to get dirt under your fingernails.
I know, wouldn't it look awful?
I should get my bag. I've got gloves in my bag, too, if I really need them.
Oh, now you're going to wear gloves?
No, only if I need them.
Well, how do you know when you need them? When it's too late? Oh, I was bitten by a scorpion. I should probably start wearing gloves.
Yes, that's right.
That's right. Do you think we should lock up the rock hound?
Take the keys.
It's not like there's anyone up here.
Track log is on.
Steve and Jeff rely on GPS to record where they are and precisely locate the position of anything they find.
Look, Steve, there's no use pretending that you understand it any better than I do.
I'm not trying to pretend.
Evening, low 68 to 73.
It talks!
Around 10 miles per hour.
And 2 veggie burgers and an extra large fries, please.
Hold the mayo.
Jeff and Steve split up to cover as much terrain as they can, as quickly as possible.
We're very close to the Mexican border. I've met rangers out here and they've said, don't come down here on your own. It's not a bad idea to be armed if you're in a small party. So watch out for rattlesnakes and drug smugglers.
Nothing yet.
Most meteorites have a high iron content, so metal detectors are the meteorite hunters' stock in trade.
That low sound when it growls like that, that means it's iron. And that's what we're looking for.
Metal detectors work by emitting an electromagnetic field from a coil at the end of the wand.
And then when a piece of ferrous metal encounters that zone under the coil, you get a signal.
This isn't the metal detector your grandfather uses to find coins on the beach.
This particular detector, it's smart enough to differentiate between iron, foil, nickel, zinc, dimes, quarters. And so that would be a very strong signal. We know we want to dig there.
But Steve and Jeff also rely on a thoroughly low-tech trick to pick hidden bits of iron from dirt and rocks. They attach powerful rare earth magnets to the heads of their field picks. When they dig, the magnets attract anything that contains iron, be it meteorite from space or earthbound meteor wrong.
Just a little piece of wire. But it was iron. Said it was iron. It's neat. Somewhere in these mountains and canyons, those gorgeous big irons were found. And there have to be other pieces somewhere. The payoff would just be enormous. It would be the biggest feather in our caps that we could possibly come up with, I think. Financially,
If Jeff found it, it would be priceless because he would never sell it. Now, if I found it, then we have to do a little bit of supply and demand calculation. It's worth looking for. And it's more than the financial. It's the quest. It's the final unwritten chapter to one of the best stories in meteoritics. How do you put a price on that?
Not long into their search of hotspot number 1 on the secret maps, Jeff gets a hit.
that sounded like something. Well, that's definitely a target.
Is it a piece of the famed Tucson Ring? A clue to the legendary mystery?
Look at that. Oh, wow. It's the back of a cartridge, but a big one. Like a armor-piercing or anti-tank round, I think. Look at that. That would have been a big shell. All right, onward.
Little boot thingy. Another meteor wrong.
When we pick up a target with the detector and we get all excited and we dig down and we find that it's not, in fact, a meteorite, we call it a meteor wrong. And that's a really bad one. It doesn't even look like a meteorite.
This must have been a deer stand. Nice. The prize is so big that it's worth going through the meteor wrongs to find the meteorite. Check this out.
Well, I think you should dig it.
In the meteorite world, size really doesn't matter.
Ow.
Discovering even a small meteorite paired to the Tucson Ring would be a scientific wonder and a financial windfall.
Oh. Oh.
Another hit.
A big staple.
Woohoo.
Another miss. Another letdown. Jeff and Steve have a lot of money and their reputations riding on this expedition.
Huh, a belt buckle.
All the meteor wrongs
And then I found this can of tobacco.
make it tough for Jeff to stay optimistic.
Okay, this is driving me nuts.
Somebody else has been here.
Steve's a very good influence on me because he's very good-natured and positive, and he thinks there's always a meteorite just on the other side of that hill, whereas sometimes I go, there are no meteorites left in the entire world. It's a waste of time. God, there's a lot of trash down here. I didn't even know what that is. Piece of an old can. That looks like an aircraft part.
It's a mullet.
Oh, come on. What's your secret?
Well, you make the most of the daylight and you try to get as much covered as you can in a day.
Don't you ever get fed up?
No.
Stop being so reasonable. Holy cow. It's a clip of live ammo. That's not something you see lying around every day. As far as meteor wrongs go, that's one of the more interesting ones. I found plenty of old spent bullets and cartridges, but never found a clip of live ammo before. coming up here onto the side of this mountain where this long-deceased prospector apparently found some iron. It's kind of a long shot, but you don't find anything by staying at home.
The first search area was the #1 hotspot marked on the old prospector's secret map. So far, the targets are turning out to be iron, but only terrestrial iron, possibly from an old testing ground.
So we found tin can, aluminum aircraft part. We don't know.
I found one too.
Aluminum aircraft part. This is very cool. We think this is part of a anti-aircraft shell or something. A old sardine can, a belt buckle. I don't know what that is.
What's discouraging is this old prospector 20 years ago may have discovered an old bombing range.
Jeff and Steve are left wondering, is the Valley of Iron for real? Or were Leon's finds all meteor wrongs?
The story that I've been told from a reliable source is that a couple of pieces were sent to an assay lab and they came back very high in nickel. And to the best of my knowledge, they didn't put nickel in artillery shells. They were almost definitely meteorites.
The presence of nickel is what separates the iron found in meteorites from terrestrial iron. Why nickel? Before the Earth cooled, nickel iron sank to the Earth's core. Any nickel iron on the surface rusted away over time. In space, iron won't rust because there's no oxygen. So with very few exceptions, any iron found on the Earth that has nickel fell from space. Convinced that the old prospector's finds were real, Jeff and Steve continue their hunt.
There's got to be some more pieces of the Tucson meteorite.
Well, I thought it might be a good idea to let Steve drive the Rockhound on the way back.
Whoa! Uh-oh, I broke it.
And within the first minute, he blew the tire out. I mean, not even a minute. What it boils down to, really, is that Steve's a maniac and he should not be allowed to drive any expensive equipment.
Allegedly. The tire popped. You got a AAA card for your
I do, actually,
vehicle?
but I don't think that they cover tracked vehicles
On non-paved roads in the middle of the mountains in Arizona.
The Tucson Ring is a huge iron meteorite that was dragged out of these mountains around 1850. Even then, at 1,400 pounds, with a hole in the middle, the ring was priceless as an anvil.
It was dragged first to Tubac, which is a small town south of here, probably by horses or oxen, and then later into the town of Tucson, where it was used as an anvil in the old Presidio. It was half buried in the sand in the old Presidio, and they used to beat iron on it. And then, after a number of years, it was recognized as a meteorite, and it lived at the Smithsonian ever since. It's very unusual to see a large hole in a large meteorite. It's possible that as it flew through the atmosphere, creating atmospheric pressure and generating tremendous heat, the middle just melted and burned right out. There may have been a softer inclusion, such as a large piece of carbon, or something softer than the iron that melted at a low temperature. Another possibility is, after it landed on Earth, moisture accumulated in the iron, and there are documented cases of terrestrial weathering causing holes or large scoops to form in iron meteorites. Terrestrial weathering caused that hole slowly to form.
Also known as rusting. Yeah, could have just rusted away.
The Tucson Ring is rare for more reasons than just its shape. All meteorites are one of three types: stone, iron, or stony iron. Irons are the rarest of the three. Only 1 in 7 meteorites is iron. Even among the irons, the Tucson Ring is in a class all its own.
Not only is it a beautiful piece, it's a very unusual type of iron. It's an anomalous iron meteorite. It's so unusual it doesn't even have its own class. So you combine the beauty of the piece with its unusual makeup and the mystery of its find, it becomes a pretty interesting detective story. It's interesting to me that Leon found a lot of stuff down kind of in the lower ground.
After one day, all Steve and Jeff have so far are a bucket full of meteor wrongs. But they decide not to abandon Leon's maps and focus on another area that the old prospector had marked.
We know for a fact that things have been found. What we don't know 100% for a fact is whether or not they were meteorites, but the evidence is really strong.
Jeff's late mentor, Professor Cree, also had these maps, and he also searched. But he too kept a meteorite hunter's code of silence.
Jim was not prone to exaggeration. He thought there was something interesting going up here on this mountaintop, and the only reason he didn't tell us about it while he was still alive is because he was sworn to secrecy.
If it worked for him, it might work for us,
They
too.
are where we find them.
That's right.
Let's find them.
They pick up their hunt at the second hotspot marked on the maps.
Okay, Jeff, before we get started, let's just get our bearings. This is the road we came in on, and yesterday we hunted in this area here. I would just say let's work our way around up on the slope and then work our way back up by the end of the day.
Steve, he's what I would call a speed searcher. He's a strong, tough guy, and he's got a short attention span, and he likes to just cover as much ground as he possibly can.
Ow, ow. Good thing I don't need that eye.
I'm a little bit more on the kind of existential side.
Yeah, he paces himself, and he's a little more methodical, and that's okay. It's okay.
I get in a kind of a trance, and I'm detecting, and I go, oh, I think there might be something over there, or no, it's that way. And meanwhile, he's going, vroom. He's just tearing across the plain.
And sometimes communication leaves a little bit to be desired.
I said, I think we should head south and go up onto this slope. And I look up, and there he is, way the heck up there on the top of a mountain. Jeff! And he'd gone west, not south.
Southwest.
I said, go south. Steve! Hey! What you doing up there? Looking for a meteorite! What direction is that? It's uphill! Did you find anything? No, I'm not singing! I said south! Too late!
Steve and Jeff have vast stretches of land to cover before nightfall.
The mountain range is not huge. It's not the Rockies, but it's big. There ought to be a lot of small pieces somewhere. And so the big prize is 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 pounds, which there could be. Bigger pieces than what are known of the two remaining Tucson specimens.
No matter how badly they want to keep hunting, they have to be careful out here because they're not alone.
Just earlier today, we stopped and we were taking a breather. Look out, Steve goes, look, is that a bear? And there's a brown bear scampering across the mountain. It's the first wild bear I've ever seen in Arizona.
Almost ran over a rattlesnake driving home last night.
Yeah. We stopped and helped him across the road because we don't believe it.
He did.
He wanted to drive over it. I don't believe in interfering with the
That would
wildlife.
have made a good hat band.
Day 2 was feeling a lot like day 1.
It's more of that aluminum.
Then, 3 hours into the hunt, with temperatures close to 110 degrees,
Hey, got something here. And it's right there on top. Right there. Cool.
it is the first find of the hunt.
Wow. Now that doesn't look like shrapnel. This looks really promising. And it's all iron. I mean, it sticks to the magnet.
Steve bags the possible meteorite for safekeeping and marks the GPS coordinates to pinpoint its location. It's iron, it looks like a meteorite, but only testing for nickel in the lab will determine if it is a space rock.
I wonder if this is a piece of the Tucson Ring. this up here nice and safe. Button it up so it won't fall out.
A short distance away, Jeff works another prime area on the old prospector's map.
That sounds good. It's right on the surface.
Even after hundreds of years, meteorites that fall here tend to stay on the surface because the desert terrain is as hard as pavement.
Ooh.
Wow.
Find number 2, less than a mile from Steve's first find. Yet another indicator that they could finally be inside a meteorite strewn field, possibly even the Tucson Ring's strewn field.
Look at what I found.
What, just now?
A quarter mile away, maybe?
They can't be 100% sure their finds are meteorites, but it looks like the secret maps have led the guys to a hotspot.
If it turns out that this small iron is paired with the Tucson Ring, it's a huge discovery. Oh, thanks.
On a count of 3. 1, 2.
Now they believe Leon was onto something.
Oh,
With 2 finds bagged, hotspot number 2 looks like it's panning out.
here it is.
Find number 3.
Look at that. These things might be related, and hopefully from something very, very old, not something just a little bit old. Definitely need to bag this one.
Thanks to a dead man's treasure map, Jeff and Steve may well be on their way to meteorite fame and fortune.
I got something. That's encouraging.
Is hotspot number 2 the Valley of Iron? The site where the Tucson Ring hit Earth.
We're enmeshed in a great mystery here of almost mythic proportions.
Discovering even a tiny piece would be big news.
The gold medal would be to find a bigger piece. Silver medal would be to find a little piece. The bronze medal is finding a new meteorite. That's not related, but it's a new find.
And these maps we are not showing to anyone.
Jeff's secret maps have led him to a location somewhere in the mountains of southern Arizona, near the border of Mexico. After finding pounds of meteor wrongs at the first location, their luck has changed at the second hotspot.
Oh, look at that.
Oh my God! Okay, he's not happy.
No, he's not. We'll just shoo him away. Shoo, little guy.
No, leave him.
Leave him. There's a meteorite down there. Oh.
Oh, there it is. It's tiny.
Find number 4. If it's a meteorite, this tiny piece could be worth more than its weight in gold. If it's a piece of the Tucson Ring, it could be priceless.
Where's that scorpion now? Let's give him some space. Don't you stamp on that! I saw that. Oops. Stop looking at it. Go stand over there. It's not that I'm a huge fan of scorpions, but there's no need to kill them. Well, that's pretty exciting.
As small as they are, these fragments could give Jeff and Steve a place in meteorite lore, but only if they're confirmed as relatives of the Tucson Ring.
Today, it's perhaps the most famous and enigmatic meteorite in the world, this gorgeous giant ring.
Steve and Jeff now have 4 pieces they think are meteorites, all found in hotspot number 2. And there are still 2 hotspots to be searched. If the guys make discoveries in these locations, they'll be able to connect the dots and show the outline of a strewn field. And that, in turn, could point the way to the missing pieces of the Tucson Ring. Hotspot number 3 is on the other side of private land. One thing Leon's map doesn't show is who owns the land, and that creates a problem. The guys play it safe before crossing the land of ranch owner Joe Robinson and introduce themselves.
There's some really dandy stuff here that I found over the time. I don't know what it is.
It turns out Joe likes to hunt for meteorites.
Terrestrial. Very rare, I'm sure. Terrestrial, though.
This was my big find at one time, but
Wow. And in these parts, you're looking for something that would be solid iron. So it would be the density of a sledgehammer.
Steve and Jeff are happy to cash in on their common bond. And with nothing but a stick and a magnet,
And then we're just gonna tape a powerful magnet onto the end of it.
looks good.
There is your real
Thank
frontier
you.
rustic magnet cane.
Hey, that's pretty neat.
and with Joe's new magnet stick, the guys buy their way across his land.
Don't mind, we're gonna do a little hunting, and if we find anything, you'll be the first to know.
Well, I appreciate that, and you can go right ahead and go do her.
If the Tucson Ring strewn field is here, it's spread across rugged Arizona mountains. This search can only be done on foot in 100-degree plus heat.
Today we're gonna be at about 5,500 feet. It's gonna be hot. Unfortunately, we've got no cloud cover. The altitude combined with the dry air will pull moisture out of your body really fast.
Are you there yet?
We gotta hike down this wash, up there a ways, and then we'll mark the exact spot where Leon, the old prospector, discovered one or more irons. 3:15, emergency water break. Even though it seems like it's a lifetime away from up there, it's only a couple of miles in a straight line.
Fancy meeting you up here.
Being out in the boonies with your hunting partner, looking for rocks from space, it's a pretty interesting way to spend the day.
And it's an adventure. And if it was always easy, there wouldn't be any memories with that.
I got a target.
What you got?
Sounds like iron. Here, why don't you do the honors? Still there?
I think so too.
That was it? Smashed that bullet. Oh, well. Thanks for digging that up for me there.
Don't mention it. It's the least I can do for you.
You're a real good prospector.
Hours of searching turns up nothing remotely resembling a rare iron meteorite.
You don't find a meteorite every day, or sometimes not even every week.
They try to keep their spirits up.
It helps to maintain a positive attitude. And I think we get through some of the hardships and difficulty and disappointment by joking and goofing around. Excuse me, sir, could I ask you to step over into the security inspection room, please? Before you board the aircraft?
I was in the war. It's a steel plate in my buttocks.
There, of course, is always the hope in your heart that that next target's gonna be something really amazing. On the other hand, you can just say, well, yeah, if you can't hack it, then stay home and watch television.
Despite the heat, Jeff and Steve trudge miles up a canyon. They finally arrive at hotspot number 3, right where Leon marked a key find on the secret maps. From here, they can map out a possible Tucson Ring strewn field.
This is it right here. In this little subwash is where Leon found the biggest of his pieces.
Steve marks their present location
We are logged in.
and compares it to the coordinates of hotspot number 2, where they found the 4 small pieces.
Right now, we are 1.4 miles away.
In his computer, Steve plots a course between the 2 hotspots. The area in between maps out a possible Tucson Ring strewn field. That's the area to hunt next.
And it runs us right up over the hill.
I would have thought we were further south. Well, that's why we do it this way.
Yes.
Because if I guess, we go and walk in the wrong part of the desert and die.
Well, yeah, but it's all for a good cause.
That's where I want to be. 1 mile straight up.
If the heat or the snakes don't get them first,
I can feel the meteorites pulling me psychically. Or maybe it's just sunstroke.
the guys could be on their way to becoming the most famous and wealthiest meteorite hunters ever.
That might be something.
Any pieces they find here could lead the guys to where big pieces of the Tucson Ring landed untold years ago.
something. Yeah. Okay, I lost it.
Yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's hard. Sometimes it's expensive and dangerous and frustrating. But the payoff is potentially huge.
There, it ends right there. Hey, Jeff, there's something down there.
Do some more digging.
Maybe we should bring in the backhoe. I don't think we can get a backhoe out of here.
Look, it's like charcoal.
Maybe it's a lightning strike. Oh,
Why would charcoal set off a metal detector?
Yeah. It is that stuff, right? Hold on.
Steve thought it might possibly have been a lightning strike.
oh, there's loads of lightning up here, mate. Loads of it.
Thanks for calling me over for that. I really appreciate it.
Shut up.
You don't find a meteorite every day, or sometimes not even every week. On the other hand, if we found a meteorite out here, an iron meteorite, but it's not part of the Tucson Ring, in a way it's even more intriguing. Meteorites are very rare. Iron meteorites are very, very, very rare.
The possible strewn field between hotspots 2 and 3 comes up dry. They find nothing. Jeff and Steve need help. So they turn to Warren Lazar, who knew Leon, the old prospector.
This is where you used to mine for gold nuggets back in the 80s.
This is it. Well, we didn't call them gold nuggets back then. We call them, raw gold. We started this operation back in '83 with my friend Leon. But Leon also was, he was a metal detector person. And he had found irons.
You came here looking for gold.
Found gold.
Found gold.
Yeah.
And then your gold prospecting partner maybe discovered meteorites by accident at the same time.
Good possibility. He said, well, I found this target. I think it's iron. Or I found this target. I think it's gold. And he'd never come right out and say it, so I'd look at
A cautious man.
Yes, very cautious.
Now, you said that Leon had found some pieces.
He had said that he had found what he thought was pieces of iron back up on this ridge.
Okay.
Where's the Valley of Meteorites? He's quite certain it's just over that hill, ladies and gentlemen.
Armed with new insight, Steve and Jeff head back to what they hope is the strewn field. So far, the guys have 4 possible space rocks to take to the lab for testing. They have one last spot on the secret map left to search, hotspot number 4, their last shot at finding any more possible pieces of the legendary meteorite.
Well, that's something. Yeah, a piece of an old can.
Nothing yet.
Steve!
Jeff, I got one.
Oh my God, I've got one.
I don't see anything.
If this is a piece of the Tucson Ring, the value would be astronomical.
Ooh.
Take a couple of photos of it. That is the real thing. We logged the position with the GPS. And that is so we are able to record the exact find position. Wow. It looks like a little flying saucer. Well, I don't need to do the magnet test, but I'm going to do it anyway. Wow. That's what makes it all worthwhile.
Find number 5. Could it be a fragment of the Tucson Ring?
Mine's a meteor wrong.
You want to see something cool?
Yeah. Ooh. Ooh. Jeff. We need to test that one.
Oh, yeah. If it's a meteorite, that's great. If it's connected to the Tucson Ring, would be one of the biggest discoveries of our career.
There's only one way to verify that Jeff's new find and the other 4 are actually meteorites.
We think they're meteorites. We think, but we can't tell for sure without an analysis conducted by an academic specialist.
They have 5 chances at matching the legendary Tucson Ring. 5 chances at cashing in on a meteoritic fortune. Their finds will be tested by meteorite specialist Dr. Lawrence Garvey.
Fortunately for us, the Center for Meteorite Studies at Arizona State University is just up the road.
Hello, Steve.
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you again, Lawrence.
Oh, it's quite a big piece this time. Can I take it out of the bag?
Yeah, please do.
Oh. First thing to do is to polish a small window on this. And then, we can have a look on the scanning electron microscope and see what we can see.
To do that, the would-be meteorite has to be ground, a nightmare scenario for a passionate collector like Jeff.
I can't bear to look.
The scanning electron microscope has approximately 250 times the resolution of a normal light microscope. And so by examining these fragments, once they've been cut and polished, under the SEM, the scanning electron microscope, we're going to know for sure what they really are. So that's all you're doing on that? You're not taking off anymore?
No, that's it. That should be enough.
Okay, I can breathe now.
The next step is to do some chemical analysis. It can go into the SEM with an EDX.
Okay.
The SEM, scanning electron microscope, provides an image of the physical structure. The EDX, energy dispersive X-ray, quantifies the actual elements the specimen contains and displays them as spikes on a graph. All the sophisticated equipment focuses on answering one question. Did the guys find a piece of the world's most fascinating meteorite?
Well, the Tucson iron is probably one of the most enigmatic meteorites in existence. Structurally, texturally, and mineralogically, it's one of the most unique meteorites ever. No other meteorite even approaches its composition and structure. Okay, we're going to put in sample number 1.
First up, find number 1. Steve's most exciting find.
This looks really promising, and it's all iron.
Okay.
They're looking for nickel, the element that is abundant in iron meteorites.
So we've just loaded it in the microscope. Here's our first image.
If they find nickel, Steve and Jeff may have discovered a piece of the Tucson Ring.
Yeah, right there. So we'll collect the spectrum.
The results could make them meteorite rock stars.
So these are the X-ray peaks that are coming up.
Hey, is that nickel?
We have our iron, and no nickel.
No nickel.
Zero.
Okay, 0 nickel.
0 nickel. If there was any nickel, you would get a peak.
We get a piece.
We don't get a peak.
Nothing.
There's no nickel.
No nickel. Okay. What is it?
Piece of iron.
Oh, okay.
1 down. 4 specimens to go.
We're just holding our breath, waiting to find out.
Let's do it.
Find number 2. One of Jeff's finds is next.
It's right on the surface. Check this out.
And we've got to collect the image.
That's probably.
There's no nickel. We don't get a peak.
Again, no nickel. Another meteor wrong.
I am remaining optimistic.
The next specimen. Find number 3.
Here it is. Look at that.
Has no nickel in it. It's iron. It's pure iron. Just a bit of steel.
More junk. Just 2 more shots at fame and fortune. Find number 4.
Look at that.
Oh my God! Okay, he's not happy.
No, it's not.
We've got to change the magnification up here.
You're taunting us a little bit.
It's essentially iron. It's pure iron. Certainly a terrestrial piece of iron.
Nothing but another Earth rock. The results are devastating. Hours and hours of hunting in extreme heat, and they have nothing to show for it. Steve and Jeff are down to their final chance. Find number 5 from the last search area.
Look at that. We need to test that one.
Oh yeah.
Right now he's just focusing and aligning the microscope. So these are the X-ray peaks that are coming up. Okay. Look at that, nickel and iron. Oh, this We have 93 atom% iron and 7 atom% nickel. It actually looks like an iron meteorite.
Okay, that was about a month's work to find that guy. So we're really onto something. We're really onto something.
Yeah.
Now, the biggest test of their meteorite hunting careers. Does find number 5 match the Tucson Ring?
Now we get to wait until we get that test done.
Pairing the meteorite to the Tucson irons rests on examining the physical structure of the meteorite. Seen through an optical microscope, the Tucson irons have an abundance of what are called small silicate inclusions. They appear clear or white. Jeff's new meteorite has none.
You can tell immediately just by looking at this that this is unlikely a Tucson iron piece. It does not have the abundant silicate inclusions.
No inclusions. It's not a part of the ring, but it's a part of space. It's a part of the asteroid belt.
There is some good news with the bad. Dr. Garvey's analysis reveals something unexpected. This iron cannot be paired with any other meteorite. It's one of a kind, from a previously undiscovered fall. A very big deal in the world of meteorite hunting.
It's quite amazing to find a new iron. It's really, really rare, as you both know. I mean, people can hunt their whole lives and not find a new iron. So it's quite an amazing find. I look forward to seeing more of it.
At auction, this meteorite might go for $100 a gram, making it worth more than twice its weight in gold. But for Jeff, the fact that it is a new iron puts its value off the charts.
We found a new meteorite. The expedition was a success. We're going back.
If you add up all the hours it took to find this one and divide it by how many grams, it's a very expensive meteorite just in what it took to find the one piece.
Maybe in some perfect universe, the mystery of the Tucson Ring and the mystery of Leon's maps will join on the road and we'll finally get to the bottom of all of this. But the legend and the mystery of the ring continues. It's still out there somewhere.
Constructing a new house from the ground up, it is never easy. But when an incredibly tight budget forces you to adopt a pioneering build system on the steep side of a protected valley, well, is it really possible to build a dream home in a place like this? Building off the beaten track comes with a host of challenges. Overambitious designs can wreak havoc with build schedules.
Whoa. Is it sinking on?
For a while I was calling this our muddy field full of broken dreams.
Isolated plots can have tricky access.
It's like another world up here.
And budgets can spiral out of control.
We loved the house, we just couldn't afford to build it.
All this makes conventional house building in places like this difficult, if not impossible.
To build here traditionally would be a nightmare.
So you can't afford it. Where'd you turn? What do you do?
The answer? A new wave of ingenious kit homes.
Look at this, you've tamed it.
Wow, it's majestic.
Come, it's like a proper house.
That's mental. In this series, designer Aidan Keane and I join the pioneering families as they construct their dream homes in workshops.
Sven, that's our house.
And then battle to assemble them on site.
Whoa, come back.
No matter how remote the location.
I'm videoing this for the insurance claim.
Today, this fearless single mum
My weekends are spent building muscle.
attempts to build a pioneering home resembling a giant beehive.
Nicely done. Okay, Eddie, up.
On this steep hillside plot,
Oh, wait there, bucko.
Just having a few teething problems.
in the wilds of the West Country.
Now we're smoking.
Food fanatic and mother of three, Fiona Oliver lives in the village of Calstock, a hidden gem in the stunning Cornish countryside.
I've lived in Calstock nearly all my life. It's a beautiful area. You've got the river, we're fairly near the coast. I love all the fresh produce you can get around here.
There's a really good village feel. It's quite a community. And as you can see, it's a beautiful place to live.
Fiona currently rents a house, and she is desperate to find a place she can call her own. But with a small budget and a limited number of properties on the local market, finding her dream home is proving impossible.
I've been living for the last 10 years in rented accommodation, and obviously it's very expensive to do that, and I can't really continue doing that. I have a very limited budget. I've had to think outside the box and think of how I can use that small amount of money to look for an alternative way of staying in Calstock. And have the table running.
Fiona has been forced to take a different approach. She plans to build a radically new form of house from scratch.
You need something supporting that.
Helped by eldest daughter Jemima, who has just completed a degree in 3D design.
From Mum's situation, to be able to stay here, it would be amazing.
Fiona lives in an area of outstanding natural beauty, meaning finding a plot to build on is extremely challenging. Calstock sits in the picture-perfect Tamar Valley, marking the border between Cornwall and Devon. 5 years ago, Fiona stumbled across this idyllic field for sale on the edge of the village. She immediately made an offer. To find out more, I've come to see the site.
So is this you here?
This is us.
What an amazing location.
This is the River Tamar, and that will obviously take you out to Plymouth and beyond.
Wow. Lovely. What a beautiful spot. Absolutely incredible.
It's lovely, isn't it?
So, geography-wise, we're in Cornwall.
We are indeed.
That's Devon.
Yep.
But then these beautiful woods here.
That's National Trust woods along there.
Right, so that's never going to change.
Never, no.
God, you've really struck a gold mine, didn't you? It's beautiful.
They found themselves an amazing spot here, but I can't help but worry there's a reason it hasn't been built on before. This plot is seriously steep.
To build here traditionally would be, I think one word would be a nightmare, because you've got a very limited access. So trying to get a decent-sized lorry to swing down this path.
You wouldn't really.
Once you get the lorry in here, there's nowhere really big enough to park the lorries and unload, and then to store, just to get stuff down and up. Foundation digging would be atrocious. So what are you building?
It's a prefabricated modular build in hexagonal pods. It's a building construction that sort of allowed us to let the land determine what it's going to be. So it's going to actually merge into the landscape is the idea. The rest of the field is going to be sort of terraced for growing.
It's going to be a little bit of Tuscany.
Exactly, but basically if you're on the boat and you're coming up that river, we want someone to be able to look over here and the house just melts into the back eventually.
There's a fella there going out to... You're going to get yourself a little boat and go fishing?
We actually did buy a tiny little rowing boat, but that sank, so...
Hopefully that isn't a sign of things to come. Fiona has come up with an innovative and unique house design for her spectacular hillside plot. 9 hexagonal pods will slot together to create the 21 by 9 metre footprint of this home, resembling honeycomb in a beehive. There will be 2 bedrooms at one end of the house, each with an ensuite. and an open-plan living area at the other. The main entrance will lead into a sociable kitchen space with a large central island and glass doors that open out to a deck. Floor-to-ceiling windows along the whole front of the house will make the most of the spectacular views out across the valley. And a wood-burning stove will create a cosy snug for those cold winter nights. Each hexagonal pod will have a glazed central dome to let in lots of natural light. And in Fiona's master suite, additional glass doors will open out onto her own private area of decking. The wood-clad exterior will be topped with a grass roof, allowing the unique honeycomb home to blend into the hillside.
Talk me through the design. We were standing up here,
So
right?
we were just here. Walkway down towards the hive.
It really is a hive, isn't it? I mean, look at
Yeah.
this shape. It's extraordinary.
It's almost like a little bit of a reveal, this bit. So you come in this door, then you're straight into this nice big open plan kitchen area with the living and the dining sort of all combined.
I mean, I think for us, the kitchen really is where we live. It's like our reception kitchen.
Yeah. So instead of everything being around the perimeter, it's all been brought to the centre. So everything's happening in this sort of central unit.
Are you a tidy person?
It's not a huge strength.
I love the way you put that.
But I'm a fast learner.
Right. Because that's the only thing about sinks on islands.
Yes.
Is you need to be fairly prompt when you're tidying up.
Yeah.
So what are these lovely little domes on the top here?
So those are the light domes. Having the light dome sort of opens it up and makes it feel a lot bigger than it is, and adds a little bit of height as well.
Fiona's hoping to keep the construction costs of her pioneering hexagonal pod home to a minimum.
What is your build budget?
Well, the budget I've actually given this is 90,000.
So it's £1,000 a square metre.
Yeah.
It's doable. It's really tight on this side.
There are challenges, but with that comes you to really thinking about every single bit of space and what do you really need and what can you just let go of and not have.
This house build would be challenging enough on such a tiny budget, but Fiona's got another surprise.
This is the first one that's going to be made.
That's an enormous sort of leap of faith, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
I love it. I love the bravery. I love the ambition. I think it's slightly bonkers, and I think the world's far too safe, and we need a little bit of bonkers, and this is exciting to see. Genuinely, really exciting to see.
I think that's a compliment, Charlie. I think it is.
It is a compliment. It is definitely a compliment, but it is slightly bonkers, and I like that.
To make Fiona's innovative dream home a reality, she's working with a specialist kit house builder based in Lancashire. Founder Barry Jackson understands how creating a bespoke home on a tricky plot can be hard to pull off.
Fiona's got this fantastic site, but it's really, really difficult site. Now, to build a traditional house on that site, it would be a real no-go because you'd have to get heavy machinery on there, pour in concrete foundations, etc., bring all the bricks and all the timber to site that would be needed. Everything would be a lot more expensive.
To realise Fiona's dream home on her challenging plot, Barry has created a novel concept where a unique design can be produced from standardised sections built in a workshop and then arranged to suit Fiona's needs.
For me, the simplest way to do this is to systemise the whole process. We're making the same components over and over again, which go together to make these hexagonal modules.
Barry starts by constructing the floor for each module. Every hexagon is made up of 6 identical triangular panels, which Barry and his team construct in a template known as a jig.
Because we've got a lot of these sections that all have to fit together, it really is key that everything fits into this jig as it's cut. Each one's been pre-cut to fit. that. And then once they're in position, you can screw it all together, and that creates one of our triangular sections for our floor. 2 triangular sections make 1 diamond section. This is 1/3 of the hexagonal pod.
Barry has designed each individual section of the house so they are light enough to be lifted by hand. This way, they can assemble the house on site without needing to hire heavy and expensive machinery such as cranes. To cut costs even further, Barry has developed an alternative to traditional concrete foundations to support the house.
This is the hole that is all important to the build, because this allows us to pass our support pole through this section of the floor. And then underneath we would have our adjustable foot, which raises and lowers the building.
This technique should minimise costs and any impact on the site. The weight of the house will be spread across 42 poles, each sitting on a small concrete pad. Barry and his team will bolt together 3 diamond sections to produce each hexagonal base, and use the poles to ensure the pod is completely level. Floor-to-ceiling windows and doors will sit within highly insulated customizable wall panels which will form the facade of the building. To protect this timber structure, the roof will be made of specially moulded fiberglass with clear metre-wide domes to let in extra light. This simple building process means that, in theory, Barry should be able to produce Fiona's bespoke beehive-inspired house on her extremely tight budget. But pioneering a new idea is always a leap of faith.
Fiona's build is going to be our first residential building. It's a brand new concept, so we're doing something really quite different. So a little bit trepidatious, but we're really excited about the whole concept.
Building a house is always a challenge, but to do it whilst pioneering a new construction method on an awkward site with a tiny budget that leaves no room for error, well, some might say that's impossible.
In Cornwall, Fiona Oliver, with the help of her eldest daughter Jemima, is attempting to construct a unique beehive-like home made from a series of interconnecting hexagonal pods to transform this steep hillside plot into her own Garden of Eden. Fiona wants to build her distinctive new home by spending just £90,000. She will hook up to electricity and water supplies running along the access road. She also needs to install a waste treatment plant. Once all the services are in, Fiona hopes to create a path winding its way down through the 1.5-acre field, with a vegetable garden at the top, an orchard on the mid-level, and a wildflower meadow complete with traditional beehives at the bottom. Fiona hopes her new kit home will blend into this natural oasis. Fiona is in Wigan, where components for her new house are being produced. The modular design uses fiberglass panels to create a strong and waterproof base to support a living grass roof.
Is that one of our sections?
This is one of the moulds ready to make the roof panels. So we've got 2 moulds here. We've got one with the cutout, and then we've also got a diamond-shaped mould for a whole hexagon that doesn't have the sky dome in it.
To create Fiona's roof, the team begin by applying a resin coat to a bespoke mould.
That'll be setting all the time, so you've only got a short period of time to actually get this on and get it all nice and smooth.
Before the resin sets, they spray on strands of fiberglass.
now be rolling in the mat. So this creates your smooth finish and makes sure there's no air bubbles in the actual roof sections.
Once the glass strands are 5 centimetres thick, workers bake the panel in an industrial oven at 50 degrees centigrade to produce the lightweight but robust fiberglass.
I feel like I've got a few buns on the side. This is baking on a grand scale, isn't it?
Finally, the team trim the rough edges of the freshly baked panel. 3 of these completed sections will form the roof of each hexagonal pod.
So smooth, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it?
You know, complete gloss finish.
Yeah.
These fiberglass panels will be filled with grass to create a living roof. This will allow Fiona's kit house to merge into its rural setting. To complement the green roof, Fiona now has to decide what material to use to clad the sides of the building.
So here we've got a few options for your timber panelling. Here we've got a cedar, which is a lovely timber to use.
Okay.
Then we've got a larch here, a little bit cheaper than the cedar. And then here we've got a thermo wood, which is a heat-treated timber, and that improves the weather-resisting properties of the timber.
It's thinking about the long term and thinking about in 5-10 years' time actually what that's going to look like.
Yeah. So that's your cedar. Smells beautiful, and it's a very long-lasting timber. Probably gets
I love that smell.
50, 60 years out of that from a cladding viewpoint.
But it won't stay that colour?
All the timbers will actually turn grey eventually.
Even if I treated it?
Cedar doesn't need to be treated. It can be left untreated.
And I kind of like the idea that you haven't used chemicals. That appeals to me a lot. You know, if I had the money and it was no object, then I'd probably want to go for that. Decisions. It's continuous. The decision-making never stops. It's just exhausting continuously, being challenged. What I thought, Jemima, is if we go down and get our plastic sheet, spray it with a spray and get some...
To get a better idea of how her home will look and feel, Fiona returns to her plot in Cornwall.
Go that way?
Yeah. So we've got straight edge that way, haven't we, I think?
She's keen to make sure she's got the measurements spot on before the hexagonal pods arrive on site.
We went to the builder's merchant and bought a bit of membrane here, cut it all up. Now we have the exact size of the hexagons we're going to have, and then we're plotting out how that's going to work. I like to be able to see it. Now we're approaching the front door. And then open the front door. The plant room is to there, so in we go.
Yeah, we haven't drawn that. Wall, toilet, utilities.
And then into kitchen. So we're going to go out now through the bifolds.
Yep, nice big table and cooking over there, so your wood-fired oven, your barbecue, all that sort of stuff.
The bit I'm very hesitant about is actually getting the building here and getting it up. I have nightmares thinking it's not going to fit.
Fiona's novel and affordable design approach is being adopted by others with equally awkward sites and modest budgets. The owners of this beautiful one-bedroom farmhouse in Dorset embrace the interconnecting modular technique for their build. Whilst establishing a new farm, the owners needed to think outside the box to create a new home on their steep site. The house is constructed using 5 square timber frame modules that sit on concrete blocks, just like Fiona's will, to overcome the slope. Inside, the large kitchen and living space occupies 3 modules and has spectacular views over the beautiful surrounding countryside. The pitched roofs and light wells in each module create a spacious feel, similar to Fiona's design. The bedroom takes up one whole module and includes lots of clever storage solutions to maximize the space. The final module contains the entrance porch and bathroom. The outside is clad in larch, so it blends into the rural farmyard setting. A sun deck allows its owners to soak up the views and relax after a day herding livestock. In the picturesque surroundings of Calstock, Barry has made a 300-mile trip to Fiona's site to install her new home's foundation pads.
Barry's come down to put the actual pads in, so they're the concrete pads that the feet of this house will sit on. I've had this filled for 6 years. So to get to this point that we're actually starting to build is huge.
Fiona's new hexagonal home will stand on 42 simple concrete paving slabs.
Each hexagon has 7 feet. They sit on these pads, which spread the weight of the whole building over the site. We dig a hole, which we compact down. Then we put a sand cement bed on it to level the pad, and the pad is just a simple concrete flag.
The awkward access to the plot is slowing the team's progress.
The access is bad, so we've had to have stuff delivered in other places, and then I wheelbarrow it in.
Fiona's hands-on approach is helping her keep within her extremely tight £90,000 budget.
My weekends are spent building muscle. We are on budget at the moment. Because it's something that hasn't been done before, and we really are feeling our way along this, I have to watch every single penny.
Barry finishes the foundations by the end of the day, but Fiona still has a long list of jobs to do.
I've got to organise electrics, water, treatment plant. Let's put it this way, my reading matter at night has changed drastically.
Barry returns to Wigan to prepare Fiona's new home for the long journey south. He hopes to save transport costs by cramming the entire house onto the back of one 45-foot lorry.
Just like a little jigsaw we all put together. And we've got all the diamond sections bundled together. We've got a boxer with all the adjustable feet in, a pallet with all the poles on. Hold it there. We've got to make sure we've got everything together ready to take down, because it's a long way to go and we don't want to be forgetting anything.
Navigating such a large, loaded lorry down winding Cornish roads will be a huge challenge.
Some of those lanes are really narrow. That's where the excitement's going to happen.
It's an epic 300-mile journey from the workshop near Wigan down to Fiona's plot in Cornwall. The packed lorry will make its way down the west side of England, before leaving the main roads and heading into the narrow, twisting lanes of the Tamar Valley. Lorry driver Phil is en route with Fiona's entire new house and approaching the most difficult part of the journey.
We're just turning off the main road now, going down towards Calstock. Typical normal sign saying unsuitable for long vehicles, but hey-ho. There we go, bit of a stalemate. Okay, do you want to reverse up into there for me? Yeah, cheers.
Phil finally pulls into Calstock, but the lorry is too big to make it down the narrow access road to Fiona's site. He's forced to stop in the middle of the village, obstructing the morning rush hour traffic.
There's cars everywhere and we're blocking quite a bit of space.
In Cornwall, Fiona Oliver is attempting to build her dream home on a stunning but seriously steep hillside plot.
One word would be a nightmare.
To succeed where traditional building methods would fail, Fiona is pioneering a lightweight hexagonal modular home built at a workshop in Wigan. And she's hoping to do it all with a tiny £90,000 budget.
Building a house in a workshop and factory and then taking it to site, well, that seems like a good idea. But if that site is through an old village where the roads weren't even designed for cars, let alone lorries with houses on, that's a whole different story.
Fiona's beehive-inspired kit home has made the 300-mile journey to Calstock.
Yep.
She's away visiting family, leaving Barry and his team to attempt the most precarious part of the delivery. Transporting the whole house 250 metres along this narrow approach road.
Can you actually see anything?
Before manoeuvring through the awkward entrance onto Fiona's plot.
This is the main problem, the gate to Fiona's field. It's very tight. Nicely done.
The first load makes it safely onto the plot, but bigger challenges lie ahead.
As it's when we get onto the diamond shapes, it might be a bit more difficult. This is going to be quite tricky because we've got a big wire that runs right across it, so we've really got to be careful here. We're going to try and get them down this way. Hopefully we might be able to just sort of miss the wire.
Adrian makes the precarious manoeuvre with inches to spare.
That's one on site.
Barry and the team race to unload the rest of Fiona's house before the light begins to fade.
It's been a long day, a bit tired, looking forward to going and having a pint in the pie, and tomorrow's another day.
The following morning, Barry and the team prepare to start work assembling the first hexagonal module.
Let's go down a bit.
That's all we need for now. We're just about to start putting a module together, so we're bringing the feet over, and then the floor sections, and I might just see it go up shortly.
The team begin by fastening the supports for the feet that will sit on the concrete pads.
These are the spreader plates for the feet to go onto. Oh. And just take it over, so you go in the middle.
Barry attaches 3 large diamond segments together to make the hexagonal base of each module.
All these sections are bolted together. Quite simple, really. Like a big flat pack. We've got to get this in the right position now.
Every corner, Barry?
Yeah.
Barry's design uses poles to support the roof of each module. They should slot into the pre-cut holes on each corner of the hexagon. Well, that's the theory.
We're just having a few teething problems. One of the holes is a little bit tight.
Is it through the timber there, Ray, or not?
This one has just been a little piece of timber sticking out of the bottom. I'll have to get the pole right through. A little bit of jiggery-pokery, but you manage it. There's always teething problems when you're putting anything together. And especially when something's been built in the workshop and you bring it on site and slight differences, but that's why we're here, to sort them out. Let's get this down to a suitable height. We'll have it about 6 inches, I think.
With the floor level, they insert the final diamond section of the first module. They must repeat this process 8 more times to complete Fiona's home. For the joints to be watertight, the hexagons must all sit tightly together.
We've got the first module in, and now we're just repeating that, making sure the level stays the same all the way through. And then we connect the other 2 sections to make the second hexagon, and we just carry on. Same process over and over again. They all just lock together.
Barry and the team finish the first floor sections. Now they must attempt the awkward job of lifting the roof onto its supports.
Okay, I'm in. Yep. In. 1, 2, 3. Oh. Come on, spin it round. Hold it on here for a second. Oh. Okay. That's first roof in position, yeah? We'll put the next one in now. Connect the 2 and you can see how the hexagon shape starts evolving.
By the end of the day, the team have completed the floor and roof sections for the first 3 hexagonal modules. The next morning, Barry's first job is to start closing the structure in.
We're going to be putting some walls in today. We can get a feel for the structure, so it's exciting. It'd actually be like a room then. We just drop the walls in where the walls are needed. Slide it in up to the lines, keep it flat on the base. And we leave the spaces for the windows. All the joints are taped, keep them watertight. So it's insulated on the outside, battened.
The team have the first module complete in just 20 minutes. But like any flat pack, the key is to follow the instructions very carefully.
I just put one in the wrong way around.
Yeah. Well, at least the boss done it first.
That's actually the bottom. Yeah, the top's slightly smaller, you see. Don't believe me, Ray, do you?
No, I do believe you. The very first one that you got when Adrian gave it to you and you went, oh, it's the wrong way round. You went, oh, no, it's the right way. We then followed that.
Right.
But then they've gone on the wrong way round then.
Which ones?
All this lot.
No, not. Oh, they have?
Yep.
Yeah. They have. Shouldn't have had that last pint.
Don't worry, Barry, we've all made similar flat pack mistakes.
So this is one side that's on correct. Right, just pass me a few of those screws, mate.
With the panels now the right way up, Barry and the team finish the walls on the first module.
Well, it's just repetition from now on. It's the same pieces go together. Well, it's a true flat pack, yeah.
The team continue piecing together the individual sections of Fiona's new home. And after 2 more days, with some rough weather, the 9 hexagonal modules are up and set in place. Fiona's vision is slowly starting to take shape. The main structure of this unique and untested house is now almost complete.
It reminds me of a sort of bird sitting out on its perch. I think it sits beautifully. And this will be the front door. The thought that I'm going to be living in here and stepping in through this front door is a really great feeling. As you come here, you are opening out into the living space. Where you see all the blue sheets, that's going to be glass. And actually the space is bigger than I thought, because along to that wall, that's all going to be a wall. So, but even looking at that, when you look at that space, that's quite a nice large space.
But working with an unconventional shape and prototype design has introduced unexpected and unwelcome costs.
Because this is a geometric building, obviously all the joints need to be absolutely accurate to make this work. And you can see here, we have big gaps here, which this really should be butting up against this one, and the same here. Now, the issue with that is that because everything is out of alignment, it just goes on and on and on, and that's given us big issues with the roof and also the panels. So things aren't fitting together.
To resolve these problems, today the joints are being sealed to make them watertight.
We've got a fiberglass roof. They're like 3 shallow trays on each hexagonal. And in there will sit the grass roof. Because we have these gaps, we've got the guys here today getting that fixed for us. Once that's fixed, that will stop any leaks, because at the moment the water is coming inside the build, which is not ideal. I hope the end is in sight. It's been a long, hard battle, but once we get the electrics in, we get the plumbing in, we get a heating system in, we've got to get all of the partitions in, and then we'll be close. It's close, but there's a lot of hard work still to do.
In the breathtaking Tamar Valley, Fiona Oliver dreamt of constructing an extraordinary hexagonal modular home. She had to overcome the immense challenges of her steep plot on the edge of Calstock and pioneering a brand new building concept, all whilst working with an extremely limited budget. 2 years since I first visited the site, I've come to see if, with the help of her eldest daughter Jemima, she's managed to pull off the impossible. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
I have to say, I'd slightly forgotten just how beautiful a place this is. It's just so wonderful, isn't it?
It's pretty special.
So you're living here?
Yes, I've had to move in now, although it's not finished. There's still an awful lot of work to do.
But it must be nice to sort of wake up and see that every morning.
Oh, it's incredible. Incredible.
It's intriguing when you walk along the track here and you look down on top of the building and you really see the shape, all the hexagons. It's actually very kind of attractive from above, isn't it? And I can see you've got cladding on the outside.
Yes, in the end we went for the red cedar.
Yes.
Because that is something I love red cedar. I love the smell of it. I love the way it greys.
Well, should we go and look inside?
Let's do that.
Go on then, lead the way.
Thank you.
Much of the interior is still a work in progress, but Fiona and Jemima have set up a simple dining space, a cosy snug, and the master bedroom, all with stunning views out across the valley.
Outside, the cedar cladding complements the surrounding landscape. I see you've set yourself up with a nice little sort of eating area.
Yes.
And then these views are awesome.
One of the most special things about this spot and what the build does for it is it frames each individual view, and everywhere you are in the building you get a slightly different angle because of the hexagonals.
What's also nice is that you've got the dip of the valley, the river, and then the hill on the other side. To have vertical windows really makes sense,
Absolutely.
whereas if you're in a sort of flat landscape, you want horizontal windows, but you've got a very vertical landscape.
Yeah.
What's really nice as well about the shapes of the space, it sort of leads you, sort of tempts you through the building. Should we go and look at the sitting room?
Yeah, come on through.
So this is the sitting room.
It is.
I'm going to use this chair.
That's the best chair.
Oh, this is
Best
the
chair in the
best.
house.
That's very nice.
I love this room. This holds you, and I think that that's the thing I've learned about this shape. It sounds a bit corny, but it's like it gives you almost a hug.
This is not a very big room.
No.
But because you don't waste any space in corners,
Exactly.
it's actually like really comfortable. Three of us sat in here, you could get another couple of people in here and it'd feel like a perfect, it wouldn't feel
it doesn't
squashed,
feel
whereas a
cramped.
square room with that many people in would somehow feel...
Yeah, too much.
Too much. We should go look in the bedroom.
Yeah, sure. Right at the end of the house is my bedroom.
Okay. With the most fantastic view.
Yeah.
It's not bad, is it?
Sort of much more glass here.
Yes, I kind of spoilt myself, really. The first night I slept in here was actually the eve of my birthday. I went to bed that night and just thought, yeah, I'm in. I've made it. And although it's not finished, that's a big achievement in itself. Just to be in, finally in.
You made a decision early on to go for a very novel build technique, didn't you? I mean, a very sort of, almost a prototype.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's never without risk, is it?
No, it comes with huge risk. I've had to work really hard to get it so that it can pass building control. And all that takes a lot of time and money.
When we first met, you had about 90,000 for the build without the plot. What have you spent to date?
I think I've spent about 120.
In hindsight, do you regret taking the risk on an untested build system?
Kind of yes. But if you're going to take risks, you have to be able to take the fallout of that, really.
Fiona's costs have mounted as she has battled to make the joints between these unusual shaped modules watertight and get the radical design to meet stringent building regulations.
We dived into this not really knowing what was ahead, and it's been an empowering experience actually for us.
It's going to be incredible. I wanted to live here, I'm living here.
Slow and steady wins the race.
It's taught me that, yeah. Yeah, that's it, you just got to keep going.
This is the most unusual of projects. From this incredible site through to the shape of the building and the rocky road of its construction. And whilst there's still a long way to go, I have no doubt that Fiona will get it finished. And when it is finished, it will be the most wonderful home. Now, it's not without risk, but sometimes fortune really does favour the brave.
The goal of the mission, 1,000 Days for the Planet, is to document the beauty and fragility of biodiversity on Earth. But we also realize that life in the oceans is truly threatened.
Oceans cover more than 70% of the Earth's surface, and their volume is about 300 times more than land-based environments. So the oceans play a vital role in the balance of life on this planet. Life abounds in the Big Blue in a variety of shapes and colors, ranging from microscopic creatures to the last giants of the world. Unfortunately, our limitless exploitation of the oceans and our savage history with certain resources tell a sad tale. After nearly wiping out whale populations, we have developed ever more sophisticated fishing techniques, which have exerted an unsustainable pressure on ocean resources. Today, it is estimated that 87% of the oceans are overexploited or exploited to their very limits by the fishing industry. Large ocean predators have been especially affected by our insatiable appetite for resources of the sea. It is estimated that 90% of large fish have disappeared in recent decades. Despite their threatened status, the fishing industry still harvests about 65 million sharks each year.
Sharks were long considered an accidental catch or bycatch on longliners, fishing boats that release kilometers and kilometers of fishing line into the sea, aimed primarily at catching large fish. But sharks are no longer a bycatch. Today, they are targeted directly. In the past, there was no market for shark meat, but the recent development of the lucrative Asian market for shark fins has completely changed all that. The consequences for ocean ecosystems are disastrous.
There are recent scientific publications that say that, in general, all marine predators have declined 90% in the last 50 years. So, you know, it's not looking good.
We've invited scientists aboard the Sedna, people who are passionate about what they do and who have dedicated their lives to saving the ocean's large predators.
Biologists Pedro Afonso and Jorge Fontes have joined the Sedna 4 for this expedition. These scientists from the University of the Azores are also skilled fishermen who are able to catch a shark with a line and hooks specially designed not to hurt the animal. They will team up with Randall Arauz, a scientist and activist who has become well known internationally for his campaigns against shark fishermen, especially those who practice shark finning.
Our first stop was the Azores, in the middle of the Atlantic. It's a place I love. It's filled with history. It's a sailor's paradise. On the beaches, the docks, even in the bars, you can feel the history and smell the sea. Sailors love to stop at the small port of Horta on Fayal Island.
Located on either side of the mid-Atlantic ridge, the Azores archipelago is the result of 20 million years of volcanic activity. The spectacular scenery of the islands, which have emerged only 5 million years ago, continues to evolve and change as a result of volcanoes and the movement of 3 major tectonic plates that meet here. In the oceans, seamounts rise up to the surface, which brings up nutrient-rich waters that feed an impressive diversity of marine life.
In seamounts, you typically have upwelling events, that is, deep water that carries nutrients along the slopes of the seamount to surface or at least to depths where the animals can profit from it. Seamounts not only have more biomass or more animals, they have more species, including the top predators that might be travelers of the ocean, but that might stop on particular seamounts because they have the increased productivity which they can profit from. Everybody goes to the seamounts, including man, of course.
Many migratory species appear to use these seamounts in some phase of their lives. But only recently have scientists discovered the important role played by seamounts around the world.
We could probably try to do that, like again, like at 4
One
o'clock.
of the very first seamounts to be declared worldwide as a marine reserve for scientific purposes, so we can understand the whole process from bottom to top, is the Condor Seamount, which was declared a marine reserve about 3 years ago. And this is just outside our door, which is a fantastic opportunity for all of us, scientists, fishermen, and managers, to understand how these seamounts work so we can better protect them.
The volcanic seamounts in the Azores cause nutrient-rich currents to rise to the surface, which attracts pelagic species such as hammerhead sharks, whose status is precarious and which are increasingly rare in the world's oceans.
Hammerhead sharks are among the most endangered sharks. All pelagic sharks are reduced 90% during the last 50 years, but hammerheads are down 98, 99% in certain areas of the world. So they need a lot of help.
The crew of the Sedna 4 hopes to install satellite tags on young hammerhead sharks that seem to use some areas of the Azores as a nursery.
Hammerheads are naturally less abundant because they produce much less offspring to start with. Secondly, they actually make what we call some kind of parental care to their offspring, in the sense that they move to very specific habitats where females think that their pups are going to have increased chances of survival during their first months and years. So the nurseries of hammerheads are typically located in these very coastal areas, shallow inlets, mangroves in the tropics. In the particular case of this hammerhead species, the smooth hammerhead, we think that oceanic islands such as the Azores might play a crucial role as nursery habitats for the North Atlantic population of this species. In places like the Azores, there has been no historical fishing pressure on hammerhead populations locally, and this continues to be the case, fortunately. However, the adults which live an oceanic lifestyle are also attracted to the longlines, the industrial longline, in open water, and they are indeed a bycatch, a typical bycatch of this fishery. And that is exactly the reason why now ICAT has mandated the member states to forbid any landing of hammerhead species on the longline fleets. There is an era of research on marine ecology and behavior before the advent of electronic tagging, and another one after the advent of electronic tagging. The capacity of these devices to open windows into the life of these animals and into the significance of particular habitats is just too precious for us to leave it behind.
That's a female.
That's a female.
Stood.
I'll hold. 4 years, maybe. Well,
we think this site is a nursery, so we're going to attach an acoustic transmitter to this female so that we can find out whether she comes back next year.
So these guys, they heal really fast, these kind of wounds.
Yeah.
Not having this.
We've attached the acoustic transmitter. We're going to move forward to oxygenate the shark, and then we'll attach the satellite transmitter.
Yeah. You got it? ¿Ya tienes el número de marca?
This satellite tag, called a pop-up, is quite distinctive. After 300 days, the tag will be released and rise to the surface, where it will send all its data to the satellite. This will provide detailed and accurate information about the shark's dives and how deep it went. And if it traveled any long distances during these 300 days, we'll learn that too.
Okay, whenever you want. 1, 2,
head first.
3. Woohoo!
Without knowing it, this female will be providing scientists with vital data. They'll use it to learn more about her movements and eventually to help put protective measures in place for this extremely threatened species. To study the ocean's great migrators, we must travel great distances. With the same team of biologists, we're headed for Coco Island off the Pacific coast of Costa Rica. Coco Island is a paradise for both biologists and divers who come here from around the world. The marine biodiversity here is exceptional, and it's known for its abundant shark population.
The sharks of Cocos Island migrate between Cocos, Galapagos, and Malpelo, Colombia. So it's really a shared population. This is very important because, of course, we can protect the sharks in Cocos Island as much as we want, but then they're going to go to other islands and they must be protected there as well. And also, let's say all 3 countries get together and say, okay, we have to protect them more when they're on these 3 islands, but what about when they're migrating in between? So we need the information now on when are the times where the sharks are migrating so that we can design, of course, the corridors.
Our goal is to install a satellite transmitter onto a hammerhead shark. If we're successful, we'll gain a much better understanding of where these sharks go, and we'll be able to suggest protection measures. It's very urgent that we gather accurate data on the sharks' migration routes so that we can adopt effective conservation measures. Catching a hammerhead shark will not be easy. They are very cunning animals, and there are fewer and fewer around Coco Island. And because there are many different kinds of sharks, our bait may attract other species. But it's very important that we get a satellite transmitter onto a shark to better understand how they move around in this area of the Pacific. There are many illegal fishermen around here, and we must put conservation measures into place quickly.
Fortunately, the government of Costa Rica recently increased the protection around Cocos. They're taking stronger actions against the illegal fishermen. I really hope we can curtail all these illegal fisheries and that we can somehow control, the uncontrolled fisheries that are happening now in the eastern tropical Pacific, because hammerheads definitely have dropped during this last year.
The decline of shark species is caused by overfishing, prompted largely by the demand for shark fins, which can fetch up to several $100s per kilo.
There is a 12-mile protected zone around Coco Island in which no fishing is allowed. Obviously, the extraordinary biodiversity here attracts many poachers. We see them sitting just outside the 12-mile limit on our radar. The island has a monitoring system, wardens and boats, but they can't do anything when the poachers are outside the park. Yet we know very well that these poachers frequently enter the park because they have no notion of conservation. All they want to do is catch fish and sell it. When they come into the park, they often play a game of hide and seek with the park wardens. At night, it's the law of the jungle. And the poachers are much better at the game than the wardens. So at night, out at sea, there's a war going on.
On the island, the evidence of poaching is striking. You see it everywhere. For example, this bridge across a small river was made from fishing buoys seized by park wardens. The director of Cocos Island National Park agreed to talk to us about this serious situation.
This is where we store all the fishing gear. We can see here a number of different kinds of buoys. Do you see how many of them are painted? They do this to make them almost invisible and difficult for us to spot. We keep all the confiscated equipment here. As you can see, there is a lot. It's a big problem because it's all equipment that was set up in protected areas. We manage all of this as garbage. This here is the gear typically used by longliners. These are the lines and hooks used to catch shark. You know that the Cocos Island is also known as Shark's Island. Even our emblem is a hammerhead shark, and they are now an endangered species.
Son especies que están viéndose amenazadas.
There are pressure zones that are between 8 and 10 miles from the coast. The fishermen know when we're coming and sail off. So by the time we reach the point where we first spotted them on radar, they're gone. And that's where we find all this fishing gear. Sometimes they've even had enough time to cut or retrieve their lines by then.
Es decir, ellos en el lapso que tratamos nosotros de llegar hasta ellos, ellos recogieron lo más rápido. Y nosotros decimos que los pescadores.
We say that fishermen are like sly hunters, an exotic species introduced into an environment into which they don't belong. And even though it's a big ocean, the ecosystem around the island is especially rich.
La riqueza está ahí donde están los animales, sí, pero nosotros no podemos tener.
We can't keep the fish in cages to protect them.
Cercados, ¿verdad? Encerrados. Aquí donde tenemos
This is where we keep the buoys we retrieve.
Las boyas pelican, ¿verdad? Las boyas pelican prácticamente.
Most of them come from Taiwan, and they paint them so they can sneak past the patrols.
¿Verdad? Si usted ve una boya, nosotros decimos que boya china, pero en realidad es procedente de Taiwán.
Look at the difference. This is one that hasn't been painted, and this is one that has. With the painted ones especially, we can clearly see the intention behind them, to harm the protected area by fishing shark and tuna. We need to reevaluate our strategies to counteract this problem. We're not here just to patrol and protect. We need to take it further and work on reforming our fisheries and navigation laws.
Necesitamos una ley de navegación y es un lugar con mucha vida marina.
This is a magnificent place with a wealth of marine life worth protecting. That is the least we can do with what we have. We must quickly develop new protection measures here in the island and at a national level to protect the resources.
The team of scientists continues its efforts, but the days go by and the large numbers of hammerhead sharks that Cocos Islands is famous for are still missing. The team decides to change the protocol. At this point, any species will do. The scientists must absolutely catch a shark for their research.
Unfortunately, I'm not seeing the same number of hammerhead sharks. I used to see hundreds at the different stations in Manuelita, Dirty Rock, and Alcion. And about 3 trips ago, last year in September, we came, and there were hardly any sharks, but the water was very warm, and everybody said, well, it's El Nino, the water's warm, the sharks will come back as soon as it gets cold, and okay. But yeah, the water's a lot colder now, and they're not coming back. There was a place like this in Mexico, the Gulf of Cortez, and they had hammerheads just like here, and they wiped them out in the 90s. You know, they can be wiped out.
The scientists have tried everything. They spread blood in the water to attract sharks, use baited buoys, anything to catch a shark.
One particular night was extremely frustrating. We were trying to catch a shark for science, and yet on our radar we saw poachers coming into the park and setting their lines. And they probably had a better chance of catching a shark than we did. There was nothing we could do except alert the wardens. They said they would try to stop them, but we knew very well that their chances of catching the poachers were slim.
So we have a boat.
You see the boat there?
At what distance?
12 miles.
It's about 12 miles away.
It's about 12 miles away. It's leaving the Coco Island National Park limits.
Are you heading right out to look for them?
Yes, we're going straight there.
Earlier, this boat came within 3 miles of ours. Clearly, it was completely inside the park boundary, so the fishing equipment could be just about anywhere. What they do is cast their lines, then leave the park limits.
What they do is cast their lines and then leave the park limits. They'll remain outside at the 12-mile limit, where they cannot be caught.
An important point to explain in all of this is that if we reach them, we will most likely find fishing gear. But unless it's connected to the boat, we cannot prove that it belongs to them.
The fishermen see us patrolling because they have radars like ours. And as soon as we start off towards them, they move further away. And so we can retrieve and confiscate the equipment. But unless the boat is right there, there is no way to prove anything.
So, unless the lines are actually connected to the boat, you can do nothing, even if the lines are only a meter away and full of fish.
Exactly.
For example, we can accuse them of illegal fishing, and 2 or 3 years later, the case will end up in court. But when the judge asked the park ranger if he saw that the lines were connected to the boat, if the answer is no, and the captain denies that the lines were his, then the case is dropped. This is one of the biggest problems we face here in the Coco Island National Park.
We know what the problem is. We just need to change the law so that every fishing buoy is identified with a boat number. That would solve the problem. If a fishing buoy is found inside the park with your boat number on it, you're guilty. Period.
Along the coast, measures to protect berthing areas are not much better. The team joins another group of scientists in Golfito Bay in Costa Rica. The Tiburon mission team is studying the life cycle of young hammerhead sharks that gather in this bay. The biologists are working directly with some local fishermen to try and provide protection for female hammerhead sharks who give birth in the area.
During the months of July and August is when there is a jump in the number of, specifically, young hammerhead sharks being captured.
y todos juveniles, lo que nos afirma que
This just confirms that it's the season in which female hammerheads migrate to the coast. They probably come in May or June and leave their pups to grow in this protected area because it is a safe nursery, rich in nutrients. Here they can live for their first 2 to 4 years until they're adults, until they can make the great migrations to other islands, such as the Malpelo and Galapagos, where adult hammerheads are often seen. This is our reality here in Gulf of Dulce and other areas along the coast of Costa Rica, where the hammerhead shark is often unintentionally caught by fishermen as bycatch.
One of these fishermen has agreed to talk on camera.
On average, how many hammerhead sharks do you catch every day?
Depending on the area, in one day we can catch up to 100. Sometimes more. In other areas, none. But whenever they're caught like this, most of them are already dead. Up to 70% are already dead.
These aren't illegal fishermen. They're simple family fishermen trying to make a living. But for 2 months, they fish right in the shark nurseries.
The problem with this species is that it spends most of its time swimming to oxygenate itself. When these sharks get caught in the fishing lines, their movement is limited so they can't breathe and they quickly die. That's why during those months fishing in this area must be prohibited. 63, 48,
macho.
Male.
Es un recién nacido.
It's a newborn. It still has the opening from the umbilical cord.
63.
It's 63 centimeters in length. Hammerheads are born between 50 and 60 centimeters. That male is 2 weeks to a month old, no more than 2 months.
He's ready for relax. Un macho.
An interesting fact is that in the Gulf of Dulce, there are more male than female hammerheads. It may be a strategy to ensure genetic diversity within the species.
La diversidad genética de la especie.
Come on, go! He's stunned, but he'll recover.
The capture of this young tiger shark is not good news. Other endangered species also appear to use the Golfito area to give birth among the mangroves along the coast.
We're trying to protect the adults in their migrations, but we're leaving behind the young in the coastal waters. It's sad because we work hard to try and protect the hammerhead. And when we see these things, we become discouraged. It kills the flame. But at the same time, it's the reason we keep working. We need to know more about them to protect them. We need to work closer with the fishing communities to make their protection a reality. In Puerto Jimenez, there aren't many traditional fishermen. Only around 20 to 30 families whose livelihood depend directly on traditional fishing. There are a lot of options in the area. There's a lot of tourism. There are even many other marine species during these months, like whales and dolphins. And these can provide some alternatives, like tourism. We have to work with the fishermen so they understand that the hammerhead is endangered and that these sharks are worth more alive than dead. You're free!
Voy. Sí, está bien.
The biologists of Mission Tiburon are doing fantastic work. They raise awareness with young people and fishermen, but it will take more than that. We need laws to protect the sharks' birthing sites and nurseries for these 2 critical months of the year. And we need to find a way to financially compensate the 20 or so fishing families during this period. It shouldn't be that hard. It probably costs more to send scientists somewhere in the world to meet 2 or 3 times to try and understand the problem than it does to implement real measures to compensate these fishermen. But we must absolutely find a way to protect the zones during these 2 critical months. The conservation problems in our oceans are caused mainly by overfishing. Governments know it, and scientists have been saying it for years. Even worse, scientists are saying that we have maybe 40 or 50 years to change our ways, or fish stocks will collapse. So if the overfishing problem isn't solved early in this century, there will be no more fishing at all by the end of the century.
Longline fishing is non-selective, and every year its bycatch kills a huge number of non-commercial fish, turtles, birds, and other species. One longliner can deploy up to 100 kilometers of line equipped with thousands of baited hooks. This type of fishing primarily targets large fish, such as swordfish, which are a good source of income for fishermen. But overfishing has reduced stocks to the point where revenues are not sufficient to cover the cost of the industry. The significant decline in swordfish populations has forced the industry to develop new markets. Long considered bycatch, sharks were once thrown back due to their low value. But the growth of the lucrative shark fin market has changed the strategy of the industry.
There's very little known about sharks, and shark science only started until the 90s. And I think all shark scientists now share the concern that we're running out of sharks, and we really need to work together to generate the information we need and to get the political change we need. And
one day, Randall managed to get a friend hired on as a cook on a fishing boat. The images he took documented for the first time what happens at sea, far from prying eyes. The footage shows turtles and all sorts of bycatch, but the most disturbing images are of what happens to the sharks. These were the first images of what's called shark finning. In its most barbaric form, the shark is brought on board, its fins and tail cut off, and then it's thrown back to the sea, often still alive. Obviously, without its fins and tail, the animal can no longer swim and circulate water through its gills, so it dies an agonizing death by suffocation. It's a cruel practice, and these images galvanized public opinion.
First of all, it's a cruel, painful death for these magnificent animals. From a more technical point of view, it's unsustainable. They're wiping out marine biodiversity so that a culture on the other side of the world can have their shark fin soup.
These images of shark finning helped raise public awareness, and some countries now ban the practice. But this has not stopped shark fishing altogether.
What happened is that a new market has been created. Many countries now require fishermen to keep the shark carcasses. In a way, by creating a market for shark meat, we have legalized a once condemned practice, but nothing has really changed. We're putting even more pressure on shark populations.
The way fisheries are controlled out here in the open sea, it's no man's land. It's everyone take all. Everything is for free. And that isn't changing yet. And I think that is something that many countries have to work on. The United States, the Economic Union, Australia, which is a big fishing nation. And, you know, we need to get together and change the way fishery policy is established. We have a very interesting relationship with the government of Costa Rica. However, we have a very bad relationship with the Costa Rican Fisheries Institute. The Fishery Institute is an autonomous institute, which means it's not part of the central government. And since it's autonomous, they are not ruled by the president. They are ruled by a board of directors. And guess who's on the board of directors? Shark finners, shrimp trawlers, tuna purse seiners. So they're all there not to establish public policy. They're there to protect their own private interests. What we need is fisheries directed with science in mind. How many boats can fish this resource? When should we stop fishing? Where should we not fish? And even if it hurts somebody's pocket, we must stop fishing.
The fishing fleets have grown in the past decades dependent on subsidies from governments. That is, the real cost involved in sending a fishing vessel out there with all the costs in fuel, in gear, in paying the crewmen, etc., is just not overturned by the real profit that the catch is going to make in the market. And the only reason why that fleet or that particular vessel is doing its everyday fishing is because it gets subsidies from all of us taxpayers to lower the cost of those items. If we would be to take all the subsidies to the fishing fleets all over the world, and in particular in developed countries, most of those fleets would stop the day after.
By creating a new market for shark meat, the fishing industry is committed to using much of the resource, but at 63 euro cents per kilo, less than $1. Some wonder whether this new market for shark meat is not simply a cover for continuing the lucrative trade in shark fins. The effort to catch a shark off Cocos Islands continues. Time is passing, and the scientists are redoubling their efforts. Pedro and George have been working day and night. There's no question of giving up. They can't leave empty-handed. The stakes are too high.
If we want to effectively protect and conserve these highly migratory species, we need to figure out where the critical habitats are located, whether they are for mating purposes, for spawning purposes, or for juvenile growth purposes. This is the main issue.
Finally, after many attempts, they catch one. It's not a hammerhead, but the team can still track its movements and learn the migration routes of this Galapagos shark.
Vertebrates in general have this thing called the tonic immobility reflex, which basically is when you're turned upside down, you become numb. And they get really amenable to work with. And we think that they also get a decreased pain function. We do that to promote natural anesthesia. Okay.
Yeah, wherever.
That's the tag.
This is a female Galapagos shark. They just installed an acoustic tag inside it. This issues a sound that can be heard 500 meters around. And this tag will work for at least 5 years. So we expect to get some really good data because the tag is implanted inside the animal, so we're sure it's not going to be lost. Yeah, go for it.
Quick action is needed. The scientists install the satellite tag.
Okay, bottom one. Let's just keep going for a while.
Yeah.
Well, the shark looks a little tired, and it's already been hooked for a few minutes, and I'm just a little concerned that the time it'll take to deploy the satellite transmitter on it might be a little too long. It is very invasive, but then at the same time, the information you get out of a single animal is so valuable compared to using other type of tags. But on the other hand, it's very invasive, and yeah, you have to act fast.
Usually, after the first stage of the operation, we turn the shark over and move the boat to oxygenate the animal. This revives it from its comatose state. But this shark wasn't reacting. We began to get anxious.
Okay, so see these are self-locking, so
that direction is
they're
good.
holding now. Yeah, and then you pull it in, yeah? You're the man.
All right, the hook is off.
See, we're learning. Okay, it's going. It's going.
Oh yeah.
In the end, it was just a scare. The female Galapagos shark regained her senses and swam off with the transmitter. So she will provide a lot of essential data for scientists.
In the days that follow, divers managed to install acoustic transmitters on other shark species, including one of the few hammerhead sharks spotted around Cocos Island.
This glimpse into the world of sharks and fishing really makes you think. Scientists have identified most of the problems, and solutions do exist. But if we want to save these threatened species, what's missing is a willingness to implement those solutions. This will probably mean making sacrifices and changing our consumption habits so we can change the model and build a different relationship with the oceans. If we want to preserve what remains of our oceans, we'll have to pay the price for our past abuses.
I think there is no miracle solution to the biggest problem of all, which is how are we going to give food to everybody while wild fish are just going low and low in numbers. There is two main hopes in our capacity to solve that. One is aquaculture, but we also know that aquaculture has a lot of environmental and even social problems associated with it, and we need to solve those. And the other is obviously a more sustainable management of global fishing in the world. And that might take the exploitation of lower trophic chain resources, which can still give good protein to people and release a little bit our pressure on the top levels. So balanced harvesting is becoming a major hope in the fisheries science arena.
We talk about sharks are going extinct, how important they are for the ecosystem, and we go to meetings and we go to conventions and we design strategies, and then we have meetings to see what went wrong with the strategy, and then another meeting to push the strategy again, and this time it is going to work, So all this talk and talk and talk, but no action. Apparently we don't have time. Scientists are saying we have another 40 or 50 years before it's all depleted. In our lifetime, we may see this big dramatic change, and let's hope we can stop it. We need everybody's help.
There are serious conservation challenges, but I'm optimistic. When humanity mobilizes, we can accomplish great things. We mustn't forget that everything on Earth is interconnected. We depend on other species for our own survival. If we can change the way we coexist with other species, I'm convinced we can get there. We can do it, I'm sure.